When Thomas Jefferson sat down to write the Declaration of Independence, there was a very real possibility that it wouldn't have been needed. Let's talk about it on today's shave. It's the 2nd of July, 1776, and after weeks of debate, Congress had finally voted to declare these colonies free and independent states. Now something remarkable is happening. A document that until this afternoon was essentially a committee draft. It suddenly becomes one of the most important documents in American history. Now, when we discuss that a little bit, we have to roll the clock back a little bit. What we're talking about is the Henry Lee Resolution, or the Lee Resolution as they called it. And that was the operative act that declared the United States, or these colonies, free from the crown. And it was a very serious event, and it had been going long enough that they appointed what we called the gang, what I call the Gang of Five, or the Committee of Five, just in case it passed, to write a committee report for the Declaration. So when it came down to writing that, they got the five together, and you might wonder, yeah, how did Thomas Jefferson get picked? Well, yeah, that was kind of John Adams' job, and he insisted that Jefferson be the one to write it for three reasons, really. First, Jefferson was a Virginian, and that was important for, I don't know why, but it was important. Second, if Adams had written the report, nobody would have read it, because he was not not as well liked in the Congress. He was kind of, what's a good word? Well, he just wasn't very popular. And then finally, Jefferson was singularly talented as far as how he wrote. He wrote beautifully. He was a little bit of an introvert, so if you get him in front of a group of people, he couldn't say very much, but put him down in front of a piece of paper, and he could move the world with his words. So, this committee report was compiled on the notes of the things coming together to before the Lee Resolution came about. And he sat in, it took him 11 days, but he sat in his room alone, probably not happy that he got the assignment, wrote his best, and because if the Lee Resolution had not passed, this declaration that he was writing wouldn't have mattered, because you're not going to declare something that has been voted down, so it's just a contingent thing. So that freed up his prose a little bit, that he was able to be a little bit more forward in his writing. And that was what a lot of the editing was all about. I've marveled about how quickly it was edited. That's because it was composed of these gentlemen's own words, maybe paraphrased a little bit, and what they did was toning the rhetoric back a little bit so that it was easier to read, wasn't quite so revolutionary, for lack of a better word, and to make it suitable for everybody. So that a lot of the make it read better. I guess that's the way. Better prose. Of course, if you've ever sat in a committee and had to write something, and you die the death of 1,000 cuts, when people start taking your work apart sentence by sentence and making changes to it. But I'm sure that's precisely what was expected. He didn't expect it to fly through on the first batch or first vote. And it went pretty quickly, as they didn't even really start editing it until after the 2nd of July. So really about 2 days, 2nd, maybe the afternoon of the 2nd, all day of the 3rd, and then voted on it on the 4th for to be approved and adopted. That in itself is pretty remarkable. So there you have it, a document that was written kind of as a contingency. It was, yeah, they thought seriously enough of it that it was probably going to pass, enough that Congress created the Committee of Five to write the document, but at the same time that was kind of hedging a little bit because they weren't 100% sure it was going to pass. Kind of neat history, huh? Our gear today, and we are celebrating the what I'll call American-made 4th, is I'm going to be featuring American-made shave gear, and we're using my birthday razor. This is the 4th quarter of 1960 Gillette Fat Boy with the brand new Personna GEM, Diamond Glide. It's a GEM Diamond Glide blade. So it's a brand new blade. We're kind of breaking that out. We're using Old Spice, old fashioned. I mean, this is some vintage Old Spice soap. We'll be using Old Spice aftershave, and our brush. Well, the bristles may not necessarily have been American made, but this is American chestnut-handled. This came out of a cabin that we were tearing down at my old camp, Falling Rock. That'd been about 60 years ago. And I got a block of that chestnut, and counting the rings, that's about 80 rings going from here to here. So that tree was pretty old when we took it down. So it may have been around when all this was happening. A little bit more history in my hand. We'll use Thayer's Lemon today for our shave. Thanks so much for coming to share this exciting piece of history. A little bit of speculation. Kicking off the American-made July. Oh, I can't even get it open. There we go. Please leave your comments, questions, suggestions, and let's have a great July out there. Happy 4th, my friends.